Omaha's news leader. This is KETV Newswatch 7's Chronicle.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Maddie Augustine. Package delivery scams, fake shopping websites, gift card fraud, 'tis the season. The holidays are a time to be extra vigilant both on your phone and online. Scammers are looking to trick you, steal your information and your money. Today on Chronicle, we're talking to experts to help keep you and your loved ones safe. First, we start with our Washington correspondent, Rachel Hersheimer. She's showing us what's being done to protect you on the national level.
Scammers are known to follow the headlines.
They adapt their messaging and their pitches to what is out there in the news to make it seem more real.
Just last month, the Federal Communications Commission proposed new rules that would allow consumers to have more information about who's calling them.
I think we're all familiar with caller ID on our phone. We know that sometimes those numbers are spoofed. For the past couple years, we've been working to make sure spoofing doesn't happen.
It's work that's necessary, especially during the holidays.
I've talked with lots of people in New Hampshire who have been victims of scams. Some of them have lost their life savings.
On Capitol Hill, U.S. Senator Maggie Hassan is investigating the soaring rate of scams.
I really just want people to be aware that they're targeting you this time of year because they know people have saved up money and they know they're shopping, and people are really vulnerable right now.
Last year, scam activity skyrocketed, according to the Joint Economic Committee. Phishing emails mimicking major U.S. retail brands like Walmart, Target, and Best Buy increased by more than 2,000% during the peak holiday shopping period. Black Friday and Cyber Monday phishing scams increased by nearly 700%.
We want people to know that some of the websites that may pop up on your screen are scam websites. They're designed to make you think you're buying from a legitimate retailer.
The key to avoiding a scam is to slow down. And if it's too good to be true, it probably is.
Once you start to feel that pressure, that's a sure sign that it's likely a scam call, and the first thing to do is just disconnect.
If you think you're being scammed, you can report fraud to the FTC on their website or contact your local police department. Senator Hassan suggests doing both just to be safe. In Washington, I'm Rachel Hersheimer.
Important information. Thanks, Rachel. The Better Business Bureau in Nebraska is a key player in building marketplace integrity, offering both consumers and businesses resources to ensure fair and trustworthy transactions. Joining me now is Vice President of Marketing Communications, Josh Planos. Josh, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So the Better Business Bureau is headquartered right here in Omaha, but you guys cover other states than just Nebraska.
We do. We serve 5 states, all in the Midwest. It's roughly 11,000 accredited businesses, but there are many more consumers, and sadly all of them are experiencing in real time what it's like to shop and not really know who's on the other end of the line.
It seems like every year scammers are getting more creative. What are some of the unusual holiday scams you're seeing in Nebraska this year?
So I would say what is different this year is the amount of targeting that is going into what is impacting consumers. So what I mean by that is people will see on their social media timeline an ad that seems almost tailor-made to them. And in a lot of cases, it is, because all of the demographic data, all of the interest data that has been collected on these potential victims makes it such that you're receiving what seems like the golden ticket, but is actually a lot like targeted marketing, something that is curated for your interests alone, and is enough to pass the smell test. So all of these ads look very realistic, and there's an assumption that because it showed up on your timeline on social media that somehow legal counsel has approved it to be there, and really just means someone has cut a check to allow it to be there.
Is there something in those targeted ads that kind of can key you off that they're not right?
I wish it was that easy. Certainly scam prevention would be a lot easier if people just had a big neon sign that denoted what was real from what wasn't. But scammers are always after something that will look like it is official and authentic. So unfortunately, the best advice that we have is to engage with that transaction on your own terms. So go to that website yourself, key in the URL yourself. I know it takes more time, and many of us are not really interested in adding time, especially around the holidays when everyone feels like they're lacking time. But that really is essential, because those ads can take you to all corners of the internet and not all corners you really want to go to.
Sure, and other than those targeted ads on social media, are there any other scams that you're seeing that people are falling for time after time again here in the Midwest?
Yeah, I would say anything that a consumer is willing to engage with, a scammer is willing to provide. So fake package delivery is incredibly prevalent this time of year, because many of us assume that a package is coming to our front door seemingly every day. So we see a lot of that. We see a lot of address correction, delivery scams where people are prompted with an official message that indicates you can't receive anything at all at your home if you don't update your address. And not a lot of folks know what really go into address correction. So as a result, that's essentially a phishing exercise that gets you to engage because you're worried about, well, what happens if I don't? So I would say that those are the most prevalent types of scams involving holiday shopping that we see. But it used to be that you would buy 5 products from a company that you knew and you trusted. And nowadays, it looks like you buy 5 products from 5 companies you've never heard of before, and we just assume that our information is going to be secure, but that is the gamble that goes into just about every transaction these days.
Sure, and you mentioned it's not just one thing that could key you off, that something's not right here, but are there any red flags or things that seem legitimate but that are actually warning signs that people can try to identify on their own?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Non-traditional payment methods are typically a giveaway. So if you've been on a college campus lately, you'd know that peer-to-peer payment methods are ubiquitous. So your Venmo, your Zelle, your Cash App, your PayPal, and those are all fine and well, but they don't really provide a lot of security for the consumer when they're making a transaction. So let's say things don't go according to plan. You really don't have a lot of footing to stand on, even if it's involved in a fraudulent transaction in the way that you would if you were, say, using a credit card. There is some built-in fraud protection with plastic that you just don't get with non-traditional means. So of course, consumers are then being forced into scenarios where they're being asked to pay with cryptocurrency or prepaid debit cards or peer-to-peer payment methods that don't offer the security. So in 2025, we're trying to stack the amount of protections as high as they'll go so the transaction can be as secure as possible. So just look for something in the line of traditional payment methods to indicate that this at least is a little bit more secure of a transaction than otherwise.
Sure. And holidays, there's a lot of gifts that people see and they're like, I want that. It's the top item of the year. Trends are trending on social media. And scammers know that, so they often target that. Are there any this year that are some of those ticket items that you think people would be susceptible to be scammed out of?
Yes, I personally have never purchased a Labubu doll. I only partially know what a Labubu doll is, but I will say that that is something that has popped up on our scam tracker intake form quite a bit because there is a range of prices associated with that type of a gift. It's a hot item, so we have heard from people who have stumbled upon an opportunity to purchase a Labubu doll for $12.99. My understanding is that's not the going rate for that product. So again, if the price seems too good to be true, it probably is. People have been saying that for more than a century for good reason. But I would say that it really just depends on your interest. Like I said, the scammer is going to bring a curated gift opportunity to you based off your interest, and that interest that is then being collected by the social platform that you're on. So it might be a Labubu doll for one person, it might be a laptop for somebody else. But again, having a general understanding of the market rate for that product is going to be so important for you to avoid all of the opportunities out there that frankly are unrealistic.
Sure. Holidays aren't just about the gifts. It's the season of giving for a reason. A lot of people are donating either their time or financial contributions to a lot of charities, nonprofits. Are there scams you're seeing targeting that audience, those people that are giving to the charities or they think they're giving to the charities?
Unfortunately, yes. I would say that something like 1/3 of all donations occur in the month of December in terms of monetary opportunities. So understandably, scammers are really good at creating heartfelt stories that really tug at your emotions to get you to provide payment for the idea of an initiative and not necessarily a real initiative. So crowdfunding sites are a dime a dozen. So there are a lot of sites that offer very little protections for the consumer, again, assuming that things don't go exactly according to plan. And for a lot of folks, that's really what they're after is the thought of the idea, not necessarily something that they've done their due diligence on, looked into to ensure that this is an organization that capably can handle even any sort of monetary support. Like people don't just stumble into being a nonprofit, right? This is a career for people and there's infrastructure that is needed, especially if it involves a first responder or a natural disaster or a tragedy that you're trying to get those resources toward. So understand that if something has been created overnight, you will never have a proven track record to fall back on or to look to know that that information or that money is going to get to its intended purpose. So it's not to say that you should only deal with longstanding organizations. There's a reason why people turn to them. It's because they've proven to be trustworthy in the past. And sadly, you just don't have that guarantee with some of these fly-by-night, newer opportunities that seemingly exist each and every weekend.
Sure. So much good information there, Josh. Thank you so much. Basically, don't rush into a purchase if you don't have to.
That's a good way to sum it up.
Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next on KTV Newswatch 7's Chronicle, we're unwrapping the importance of cybersecurity. KTV Newswatch 7's Chronicle will be right back.